Hey, JV Vela here with the Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association presents to you Reasonable Doubt, here with two of my fellow colleagues and fellow hosts and all around great people. Justin Harris, how you doing today?
Hey man, what's going on? I'm
Hey.
sorry I'm not there with you.
Joining us.
Or wearing a tie.
Hey, you still look good. You still look good. In his studio, that is Justin Harris. You know, he's a man of multi-talents and functions and such.
Fake background. It's a fake background. There's nothing.
Also here with lawyer extraordinaire Vic Vikram. Vic Vij, hello.
Hey, JV, how are you, my friend?
I'm very good. I'm very good. Hey, also on the Facebook Live, we got a few judges. We got the one and only Troy McKinney on the show. Troy, why don't you give us a text and say what's up? Is he there? Hey, it says he's watching. He says hello too. Anyways, let's get down to it. Welcome to the show. What should we talk about first? Ladies and gentlemen, the topic's yours.
Well, I thought we talked about this beforehand. Don't act like we're not prepared. we were gonna talk about.
We're definitely
COVID,
not winging this. If that's what you're
we're not winging this.
No, not
This
at all.
is totally scripted, and we're good to go. We had a script prep meeting at 4:00 today. COVID's back up, and it's kind of sweeping through the courthouse. The district attorney announced, I think, last week that she had it. I heard that they evacuated the 6th floor of the CJC right after the DA's office got back into it.
Get out of here.
Not just her, but other people had tested positive for COVID on the 6th floor in the DA's office.
Yeah, the 6th floor is shut down.
You know,
and I know of one judge that's out right now with COVID.
I heard, this wasn't my experience, but I heard that there were DAs in the building that have actually, and that were in court, and were literally telling people, hey, look, I'm standing away from you because I'm fully vaccinated and I feel fine, but I tested positive for COVID. And they're literally in the courtroom.
What?
Yes. That's a rumor. I don't know. It's hearsay. Objection, hearsay.
And what, those little silver stickers that are supposed to protect them, got them past the medical screening where they have to answer a question of have you been exposed to COVID or test positive in the last 14 days?
The DAs just flashed their badge. The DAs just flashed their badge, dude. No silver sticker or nothing.
They just walk by. Well, there's a felony prosecutor in number 2 who, unfortunately, both his kids have tested positive. And I know several defense lawyers whose kids have tested positive. And that's just, kids aren't old enough to get vaccinated, and it's just sweeping through. And here we are for some folks, 10 or 11 days, and my kids 2 weeks from going back to school. And it's only going to get worse. And we are taking virtually no precautions at the courthouse.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then you had the governor sign that, I don't know if it's an executive order or what, an Abbott order saying that local governments can't require mask mandates, which is the number one thing that the CDC and the health departments are recommending. And then the Supreme Court of Texas came down and said, no. That can't apply to the judiciary because of separation of powers. So courts are still imposing mask mandates here and there. But you've got real concerns because a lot of us have kids and our kids are going to school or daycare or whatever, and they pick it up and then we get it and then we go back with a low symptom or no symptom case of it. We still have it.
Some of the numbers that were screenshotted to me from ABC 13 or some other news source, something like 3,410 new cases yesterday, 133 cases per month, 311 new hospitalizations yesterday, 51 per day in the last month, phase 1 full and phase 1 and 2 at 84%. Available ICU beds, 81 in Harris County, and 81 in Harris, Montgomery, Fort Bend counties, 6 in Galveston, Brazoria, and Jefferson counties. That's alarmingly low.
Yeah, you would think they need more than that.
That's incredibly low.
6 ICU beds. I mean, a bad traffic accident can fill those up.
I guess there are still some courts that you can walk in without masks. What are y'all's thoughts on it?
Well, I also practice in a few other counties, and I've been to Galveston and Brazoria counties in the last week, as in Galveston this morning, and there's a large sign when you're going through security that says a mask is requested, not required, not mandated, but requested. and there were very few people wearing masks. I can only assume that the people wearing masks are either hypervigilant, hopefully that's the camp, or unvaccinated. But for the most part, nobody was wearing a mask. Now in Harris
Right.
County, you have to wear a mask. I believe there was a mandate that you must wear a mask in all the misdemeanor courts. And every felony court that I've been into, and granted, I don't go to all of them, but the ones that I've been in, I've always worn a mask. And most people there, except for the judges who are obviously physically separated from other people, everyone's wearing a mask on the defense side. A lot of prosecutors, and I'm not trying to shame them, but a lot of them are not wearing masks. They've got their silver star that separates them from getting COVID or going through screening or whatever the nonsense is. But very few of the DA's office are wearing masks. But most of the court staff, the clerks, I think every bailiff is wearing a mask. I'm struggling to think of a bailiff I've seen in the past month or so that's not wearing a mask. So there are a lot of people wearing masks, vaccinated or not.
Well, and there's a lot of people that are going in the CJC nowadays. Like the lines, while they're not ridiculous. I think the elevator flow traffic has been okay. But, I mean, the elevators are looking big too. And, I got into 2 or 3 elevators today that had 8 or 10 people in them. Now, I know they govern them at the first floors. However,
They stopped doing that actually.
well, anything after the first floor, it's fair game. And people are crowding in those elevators all day.
Yeah.
Troy says he was in the courtroom last week in a district court where half the lawyers in the courtroom, both sides, were not wearing masks. I don't know where they stand, and I don't know, do we think that there'll be a pullback of in-person proceedings with at least individuals accused of crimes, or what do y'all think?
I think there should be. I don't know that there necessarily will be, but I definitely think there should be, which, we can get into this more when we're talking about delays in discovery, but there are, as you guys are well aware, and a lot of our viewers are well aware, going to court in the beginning of a criminal case is often pointless for the defendant. Hey, sorry, client, we haven't got the police report yet. I know you were arrested and charged with a felony, but sorry, we haven't gotten anything yet. Forget videos or lab reports or things like that. But there's often not a need for people to come to court. And a lot of courts are saying you don't have to, but there are a lot that say you must be at every court setting.
From the defense,
whether it's pointless or not.
At least from the defense perspective, it has really caused a little bit of chaos or extra work, I'd say, as a defense attorney. I have clients texting and calling me every single day. Am I going? Do I don't go? Do I go or do I don't go? And it takes a significant amount of time to reply and say, okay, hold on. What court are you in? Let me look it up. Okay, this court is saying yes. This court is saying no. This court, I don't know if they're doing in-person or Zoom nowadays, because we do know that a lot of the courts that were only Zoom have now transitioned to in-person. And we do know also that a lot of them are still with Zoom, and there's some sort of looming date of no more Zoom at a date uncertain. Other courts are requiring Zoom or allowing Zoom only for certain particular matters. For example, ancillary matters. And then other courts are saying Zoom only if you want to do Zoom, you can do it, by this time or less. After this time, there's no more Zoom. It's becoming extremely difficult to figure out which courts are allowing what. I don't know. That's my experience. Anybody watching have any similar experiences?
Well, I agree completely. There's so much more of what we're doing that's just trying to figure out what each court's procedure is. And what if you're in 3 or 4 different courts on the same day? Well, this court says you don't have to come in person. This court says you have to come in person. This court says you come in person if one of these following scenarios apply to you. And there's a lot less lawyering that we get to do during the day. And there's a lot more figuring out just how to show up or whether to show up or whether not to show up. You're right, JB. I agree completely. It's taking a huge chunk of the day away just trying to figure out, well, geez, does my client show up or not? And what happens if they do and they shouldn't? Are you exposing people to COVID? Or what if they don't show up, but they're supposed to. If you just fall on your sword, or what are you supposed to do? It is messy, at least to say the least. It's messy.
Well, and
I've had to multiple times just this week. I've had to go to the judge or the coordinator, basically the real boss in the courtroom, coordinator, but and tell them, I say, "Where's your client?" Yeah, it's my fault. I told them not to come down here. I didn't know exactly what your policy was. I'm still waiting on X, Y, and Z, so it's going to get reset. Do you want me to have him hop on Zoom? Do you really want me to have him come down here? And I haven't had a judge, to their credit, a judge or coordinator say, they may say, well, yeah, they were supposed to be here. They said, it's okay. Next time, just have him come down. And I don't really know why they need to come down next time, but they're somewhat showing some flexibility. For the most part, I do understand that there are some other courts. We got one next week where you're not there at docket call, she's going to revoke the bond. That's for everybody.
Well, yeah. I've been in some courts where the sitting judge is like no Zoom, and then a visiting judge will come in and be like Zoom time, and then, require defendant's appearances, and then, then you're sitting there like, I swear I thought this was a no Zoom, this was a no in-person court, and then when the sitting judge comes back, then it's back to Zoom. I had a recent problem like that I had to fix, and it was like, what? Like it was just a nightmare. I don't think it was necessarily fair, but you got to do what you got to do. That judge is in charge of that court, and I don't know of any other solution. I also think that although Zoom was something that saves lives, make no mistake about it, but that
that's their motto, by the way.
It doesn't. Zoom saves lives.
Zoom saves lives.
Well, Zoom saves. That's a good one. I like it. But the idea is that sometimes something can get worked out or something can get done if the individual is there, and it requires an extra setting. If they're not there, to say, okay, then the next setting we'll bring them in to do that. But at the same time, what are you supposed to do when this Delta variant is running rampant? I just don't know. What are y'all's thoughts?
Well, I think that if judges are solely motivated by moving the docket or their numbers, then they are going to give you more pushback on, well, your client's not here, are we supposed to do a plea or not? But if you're motivated by, number one, public health and keeping everyone safe, not just our clients, but us, our colleagues, our prosecutor brethren, or the court staff, everyone, and justice, then if it takes an extra 2 or 3 days or a week or a month or whatever to resolve a case, then that's just the price we have to pay. This is not, this is a huge public health crisis. There have to be changes in everyone's life. And part of that may be just going to take a little bit longer to resolve this case. Sorry.
I just touched my mic. One of the rookie move. How long have I been doing this?
Well, the funny thing is that I've had some.
Sorry about that.
One thing I noticed is that the courts will say, I go get my reset, and they'll say, is your client here? And I'll say, yes. And they go, okay, here, fill out the reset form. And there's no, it's dawned on me that they're not going, well, they plead out, or are we set it for trial? There's not a lot of conversation. There's certainly no more or less conversation about that than if they're not there. The only difference is if they're there, I have to fill out a reset form. They don't just write the court date down on their docket and update the district clerk's website. I get a paper reset if they're there. That's really the only difference. I don't know that there's a way to do a study. I'm sick and tired of the courthouses being studied and the courtrooms being studied. They're being studied right now. The studies don't produce anything. I just wish everybody would get out of our way and let us work, and the prosecutors would turn over discovery. But that's something. It's curious when you say that about moving dockets, because I'm not getting conversations about that more or less when my client's present. My clients don't plead out. We go to trial, or they dismiss the case.
If the county would pay me $1 million, I could figure this out. Maybe $1,000,001, I could figure it out. Because
I'll do it for $900,000.
Because whoever's in charge of this, I don't think there's anybody in charge. There's construction everywhere. A couple weeks ago, the line was pretty big, and it was pouring rain, and everybody's running around in the elevators, in the hallways, soaking wet, and no masks, and some masks, no masks, and The place is, I'm hoping that this is this last kind of transformation phase where this building can finally get up to shape. One of the things I did want to mention was when you have a court that's total Zoom and you have other courts that are in person and don't do Zoom, that destroys you because you're going to have to figure out some way
Right.
to get to a witness room that's open and then sit on Zoom during the rest of your in-person docket somehow and communicate with the court as to what's going on. I mean, that's a tough proposition.
I've actually sat in a courtroom with my phone and an earpiece in on Zoom in another courtroom, hoping just like which judge is going to call me first. And then all of a sudden I'll run out of the courtroom if the Zoom judge calls me first. And it's getting a little hairy. And I don't want to run afoul of any rules by having a video camera going in a courtroom, but I just pay attention to where I point it. But, you know, it would be really nice if they could all like talk to each other and remember that pretty much every standard of the law comes down to reasonableness, and just come up with some kind of reasonable plan. I think one problem that a lot of courts forget is that they are the judges there in that same room, in that same chair every single day. The coordinator is there in that same room, in the same chair every day. Same for the CLO, the bailiffs who move around a lot, and the 3 prosecutors who are in that courtroom are there every single day. But we, the defense bar, we are expected to move around the courthouse. And in case of Vic and myself, and even you, JV, we've got cases in other counties too. And so I'm starting to have, I've been saying this before, say it again, a big problem when a court all of a sudden, you know, back in June, you reset a case to August, and they're like, oh yeah, Zoom. What date do you want to come back? I'm like, okay, I got to be in 3 counties that one day. They're all Zoom. I can do that. And then sometime in July, they decide to cut off Zoom, and now you actually have to be physically present. And I'm like, whoa, y'all didn't tell me that, and I can't be there. So far, people have been kind of understanding and worked with that, but just why can't they just talk? They don't have to even talk outside of Harris County. Just all the Harris County judges, and there's several watching, just, you know, they'll text each other, get a little group meet going, and like get a plan.
Portia Brown on the live wire says that, and she makes a good point. The courts that don't allow the individuals accused into the courtroom, it forces everybody to just be hanging out in the hallways. And so, you know, that's when you're stuck in the hallways and the hallways are you know, lined with people, you can't socially distance. And I think that's a really good point too. I don't know, you know, I said if you give me $1 million, I'd figure it out, but I really don't know a proper solution to it other than, you know what, defendants don't got to show up to court. They don't got to show up, and lawyers just got to have to handle it, which causes which I don't like. I don't like that at all, and for my own selfish reasons, in that that creates an entirely new burden on the defense attorney to make sure that it adds a whole list of duties. We're now like we have to track people down and find them, and a lot of times, you know, numbers change or settings are so far apart where, especially if you're doing indigent defense work, there's a lot of humans who just don't have access to cell phones and who don't have access to emails, which is completely, you know, maybe I'm just that far removed from it. But yeah, there's a lot of people that don't have emails, okay? There's a lot of people that don't have, you know, consistent cell phone numbers. There's a lot of people that don't have access to the technology that, you know, we can't even keep track of them. We used to be able to keep track of these humans because they were good people and they would come to court and we'd be able to communicate with them there, but now we can't. But you got to balance it against the safety of the court staff and the safety of everyone in the building. And I don't know the right answer to it. I guess for me the right answer is no citizen accused comes to court, and the lawyers just have to figure it out. I think that's the safest bet at least during this pandemic. At least Kate Farrell's on the show. Kate, and she says, "Hi, Kate. How are you doing?" Kate says, "And that's the difference from any other illness. No one shuts down for a parent having the flu. Judges are not considering this for us as well as our clients." I agree with Kate in the sense of we do put ourselves at big risks as lawyers who have to get down there and do these things. And I guess we're all supposed to be vaccinated, but at the same time, if you choose not to vaccinate yourself, I believe in that. I believe that now what I think you should do is very different than what I think that you shall do. Obviously, I'm not a judge, nor am I a governor, but it puts us in a lot of harm's way, because if you think about it, the individuals who are arrested, they're out on the streets. Then people are touching paperwork through booking, and then that human goes through booking and the jail, and then they get out of the jail or they get brought to court, and it's like a pipeline. But at the same time, I don't know how you stop that. What are you supposed to do? I don't know.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you think, in the interest of social justice, that the procedure or the thing that's being floated right now to do weekend court and afternoon court and evening court, do you think that's a good idea?
Talk to us about that. I haven't heard that, but I have heard that, but talk to us a little bit more about where is that in the process? But before we get there, Kate will not stop. So we have to ask this. Okay, Justin, are you actually mad that Tristan mailed your daughter Taylor a glitter bomb B-Day invite?
Yes, I just tore that thing open in the middle of the kitchen and it just went like, and I was like, did she really mail loose glitter?
That is hilarious. That is hilarious.
I should call Homeland Security. This is like when people got mailed anthrax. No, it's not. People died from that. But I was like, I just very carefully put it on the countertop and I turned it over like it was anthrax. And I was like, okay, I see the date. We'll see.
Okay, so for everybody watching,
hold on real quick. My mother-in-law does that. My mother-in-law does that. So every time we get a card from her, I have the kids open it over the sink. Like, I know there's glitter or confetti or something. Either get the vacuum ready or get it over the sink.
Put a warning on it. Contains toxic glitter or something.
You gotta shake it.
This is a glitter-free house. My daughter doesn't know glitter exists. Okay,
For everyone watching in the entire world and on Facebook and who will see this later, everyone at this point, it'd be great to have this huge prank against Justin. So everybody mail glitter bombs to Justin Harris. I'll be the first and I'll post it, and that'd be great. I think we should. Okay, well, moving on.
Starts the year of me not opening mail.
Also, Natalie Ware on the show. What's up, Natalie? And she says,
hey, Natalie.
She says that, so a question was if vaccinations are being offered at the jail, and apparently they are. Now, do we know that if vaccinations are being offered to only individuals who are housed there, or are they being offered to attorneys or members of the public? Does anybody know that answer?
This is the first I'm hearing of that, so I really have no idea.
So where are we?
Anybody can get it, you just have to get arrested first.
Hey, that's not that hard in Harris County. So,
right.
Well, I guess the backlog's another big one, and that'll be a perfect dovetail into where are we on night and afternoon and weekend jails? Like, what's going on?
Well, I don't know why we're adding an afternoon. All I've heard is it's a TXU ad, like nights and weekends. So
there is a proposal there's a proposal in front of Commissioner's Court next week, early part of next week, to add a weekend docket and an evening docket. And for anyone that has kids or a life or anything else to do, or practices in other counties that do have afternoon dockets, it's impossible. I mean, you guys know, not everything we do is in the courtroom, standing there talking to a judge, talking to a prosecutor. So much of it is office work. And if we're always in the courthouse, how are we ever going to get office work done?
Right.
I agree. And it goes back to something that maybe Justin's been pushing for a long time, is how about getting paid for some secretarial work? Or, I do it now because it's impossible to survive not to. If I have to reach out to a client, it's 6 minutes. If I have to do something different, it's 6 minutes. If I have to, reschedule things or do something, it's a 6 minute pop. And if we're going to have to manage weekends and nights or whatever it is, we're going to have some sort of funds for that. I know investigators can do that, but that's not necessarily investigator work either, though.
No, that's completely impractical for anyone. And this kind of jumps into our another topic is so much of the delay is caused by another delay in getting discovery. I mean, why do we need to wait 6 months for the DA's office to then escalate getting discovery from the agencies? We have to wait 6 months for them to say, hey, by the way, hurry up, we need this. What if your client's in jail? It's insane.
Is that a DA policy, or is that something HPD said, hey, don't yell at us until it's 6 months in or something? Do we know that?
I don't know if it's
They
a policy.
agreed.
It may just be a courtesy, but the DA's office agreed. Yeah, Justin, I agree with you. They said, okay, we won't fuss at you guys to get us this discovery until it's been 6 months. Now, I had a case very recently that resolved in felony court. Client was on deferred for ag robbery and looking at going to prison for the rest of his life, charged with a pretty bad evading arrest. And he kept saying he wasn't the driver, he was a passenger. And it was the fastest I've gotten videos in forever. And I look back on it, it was 3.5 months. And that was the fastest we've gotten videos from the police. This guy sat in jail, and ultimately the case was dismissed because, one, the prosecutor was reasonable, and two, it was impossible for the state to prove beyond a reasonable doubt he did anything wrong. But he sat in jail for 3.5 months while we waited on videos. And here I am thinking, wow, that was great. We got the videos in 3.5 months. That just shows how backed up the discovery is.
We got to point out, like, all the lawyers and judges watching this, they know that already. But these are videos that exist before the first court date even. They are there before the first court date. It's just a matter of, like, clicking and it getting dragged over here and then, like, uploaded. The cops, when they get done with their shift, they upload their body cam footage to the server. And it's just a technology thing that where the human element gets interjected into the technology that's slowing all this down. And that's the frustrating thing, is there's not been anybody who's sat in that chair, Vic, that you're, well, not in your home office, but no other guest who's come on, we've talked about this, who hasn't said the exact same thing. Everyone's got a story of a case where it got done in less than 6 months. So it can be done. It's just, why do it when you've got an agreement with the district attorney that you won't, escalate the request for 180 days, regardless of whether someone's, I don't know of any caveat on that policy or that agreement. Well, unless they're in jail or unless there's a motion to revoke or adjudicate that's hanging over it. It's just flat. HPD case, the majority of them are, we won't escalate until 180 days.
Kate Farrell says it goes back to intake accepting chicken charges and wasting resources.
Amen, Kate. That's exactly right. You're bad about sending glitter through the mail, but you're exactly right about that.
I don't know if y'all have had this problem, and most of the DAs have been pretty good about it. However, there's a lot of a chunk of district attorneys that don't. So when we're getting HPD videos, we're having, like, I'll just get some random link. Hey, you got a link from the Houston Police Department based on this offense report number. Here you go. And I'm sitting there like, I don't have a control find offense report number for every case that I'm on. And so
you don't track your cases by the internal police department identification
I
number?
don't. I typically go by last name, comma, first name.
Amateur.
Yeah, last name, comma, first name. That's typically what I go by, or the cause number. And
right.
And so what we're faced with is you click the link and you look at it when you have time, and you have to either identify, you might have, let's say you had 100 cases open or something on your docket, right? And you have to look and recognize the face of your client on the video to figure out, oh, this is the client, this is the video for, Jose Vela, Jose client. It's just not practical. It's just not. And so what I'm finding is, I'm going to court and I'm saying, where are the videos on it? They're like, well, I sent you the link on this offense report number. And I'm sitting there like, I know what supplement 15 of offense report 16-4943 is related to. Have you guys had that same problem?
I haven't had the same problem as badly as you, because almost always, JV, I get an email saying, the very, very personal, dear counsel, or dear attorney of record, you will soon be getting a link from HPD for Joe Smith, and it'll have this offense report number in it. But you're right, the link you actually get from HPD doesn't have a name, doesn't have a cause number, it just has the HPD offense report number. So you have to track the email you get from the DA's office saying, all right, this offense report number is going to be for Joe Smith, and then save it. And what I've been doing is I've just been saving them my email as the client's name, so that when I have time to go back and look at it, I can just search for, oh, I need to look at Joe Smith's video. Here it is, not HPD 2021-123456789. That's gibberish. I don't ever,
Yeah.
I don't
I don't
ever
even
think of
open
my
it.
cases by their cause or by their police report number ever.
I'm not even going to open it. I'm like, what? And you know, the link expires after X amount of days. And so if you don't go back and figure that out, you're sitting there like, well, can you send the link again, please? You know, and the DAs get to sit over there and be like, I sent the link. Oh, the link was sent over. And you're sitting there like, dude, I don't have offense report 16-54329, okay? I do have 8375609. No, I think that's wrong. That's not Roxanne's
I
number.
don't think that's the right number.
Is it 837?
It's not Ross.
867-5309. Isn't that it?
Right. No,
Yeah.
yeah. That's good. That's good. What are some other discovery issues? I think it's really HPD videos are a big one. You know, rips have always been a big one. I mean, that's always been a big deal. What are some other discovery issues that y'all have seen?
Across the board. I mean, I guess one thing that's kind of stayed consistent to their credit is lab reports. They slowed down. There was a little hiccup getting blood results back and other lab reports at the beginning of COVID. But for the most part, I'm still getting, you know, mass spectrometer, mass spec results back from the labs and BAC results from the labs, and discovery has slowed down when I do a discovery order, but I'm getting the results back about the same as I used to. But videos and sometimes communication records, those are just mind-numbingly slow.
You know what I haven't, you know what's also, I think is becoming more rare are dash videos. Now granted, in every DW, you need to see the dash video, you need to see it, you're gonna get it. But I'm starting to not see a dash video on every DWI anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, you're lucky if you get an officer who's tall enough with a body cam that sees over the dashboard. But I've got the first 15 minutes of most videos staring at the speedometer.
Just driving around.
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes there's good music.
I
Sometimes
agree.
there's good music.
Most of the time, there's not. Most of the time,
there's not.
You hear some wild stuff on those videos because that's some, there's some wild stuff on them.
There is.
I do like the fact that, you know, we have at least typically, you know, body cameras. Typically there's plenty nowadays, and everybody's wearing the body camera, which is incredible because, you know, even, I don't know, 5 years ago, we didn't have that for every case. And it's still not for every case, but I'd rather have that backlog than not having some of those body cameras because those things will save you.
Do you know
They
why they
absolutely
started? I had a prosecutor tell me why they started doing the HPD cloud share. Do you know why they started doing that? The DA's office has their servers that have videos on them currently. Before what the impetus for doing that was that they have I had to look this up, petabytes or petabytes worth of data, which it goes gigabyte, terabyte, then this petabyte. They have that much video, and they couldn't get any more money to get servers, so they had to get HPD to start using their server to send us the discovery. And I haven't really sat down. Troy McKinney would be the one to ask this question to figure out how compliant that is with 3914. If the agency sending it directly to us on behalf of the district attorney's office, is the DA complying with it? And I also don't know how the DA gets it and puts it in their file. We haven't even opened the can of worms that is the so-called open file policy that the Harris County District Attorney keeps waving around as a flag that she still has. But there's not a file anymore. Like, the DAs don't even know what they have. So they don't have an open file to us to be able to go see things. I was talking to an attorney about this in court 2 days ago, and there is no longer an open file policy if there's no open file as far as I'm concerned. But there's the body cams are great, but my office is downloading 5 to 25 gigabytes of video a day on our cases, of body cams. And it's becoming like a massive storage issue. I still have to go buy 4 more terabytes of hard drives, but we do that every couple of months. We have to go buy more terabytes. So I don't know. I must have killed that.
What are your thoughts, Vic? What about
I
this on
agree
discovery?
completely. Yeah, well, just to jump on what Justin said, I have 2 4 terabyte drives that are full.
Yeah.
I mean, the videos are so massive. And a little caveat to that is a lot of times there's 5 or 6 or 7 officers there when only one has any relevant body camera. But how do you know it's relevant until you watch it? And it's, not to dogpile on cops, but sometimes there's a lot of cops just standing around not doing anything. They are not talking to witnesses. They're not talking to your client. They're not doing anything. They're just standing around. But how do you know they're not doing anything until you watch the video? So there's a lot of wasted video, a lot of wasted time.
And you got to watch
some of those
them.
can be the best ones because the main officer will turn off the video or turning off audio because they're going to talk to other officers, turns it off, and he goes over to the 3 that are just standing there talking to each other. And one of them doesn't turn off their microphone, and he's like, man, I don't know if this is the guy, but like she's saying blah 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 blah, so I think we just take him in on that. Like, well, you called the DA? Like, no. Okay, let me tell you exactly what to say when you call him if you want to charge to be picked up. And you're like, ooh, I wonder if the DA has that video. I got this through a subpoena, and I think it raises some doubt issues.
You have to watch those videos. You have to watch them. I had a case years ago.
Right.
I represented the sister of a good friend of mine. She was charged with DWI, and the audio on the arresting officer kept going out. But there was another officer that you could never see anything, but all on the body camera. The arresting officer said, she passed all the field sobriety tests and she looks good, but F it, I'm still taking her in.
Oh, yes.
Nice.
I just recorded that on my cell phone and showed it to the prosecutor. They dismissed it right away. I mean, but I would have never gotten that had it not been for watching that other body camera where nothing happened for 30 minutes other than this conversation in the parking lot where my client was being arrested.
I had one where it was a Berg Hab, and the officer, like 45 minutes into the 5th officer's body camera, I'm sitting there, I'm snoozing, I'm like, I have to watch this whole thing, and I'm about to go to sleep. Then all of a sudden I hear from this like random 5th officer picking up the audio where the lead enforcement officer had turned off. And you hear him picking up the audio saying to the complaining witness, hey, look, you got to say he stole something, or you got to say he took something, because if not, then you're not going to have a charge, okay? And he goes, well, he really didn't take anything from me. He said, look, just put some stuff down. What is it, some jewelry, some money, or something? Like, let's go. And sure enough,
wow.
Yeah, I know. And I'm sitting there, and this is set for trial, okay? This is like trials on Friday, and I'm going through body camera 48 on like Tuesday just to make sure, crossing everything, and I say, oh gosh, I missed this. And sure enough, I take it. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna kick some butt on this case, and I do the whole like contemplating: do I tell somebody this, or do I just like blow everybody up on this? And so I go to the prosecutor, and I'm like, hey, look. If you knew this whole thing, like if you listen to something on the audio, and you have to be real careful because sometimes you don't know if the prosecutor's what you believe is gonna do the right thing, and you're just like, you know what, I'm just gonna beat you at a jury trial, so that way when this case is over, we know it's over and it's done and it's dead, and you can't ever come back and try to revive this. And sure enough, I had a decent prosecutor. Like I said, why don't you go listen to minute 83 on Officer 49th video, and sure enough, oh geez, and yeah, case was dumped. But I had to make that call, and I'm not quite sure I would do that with a different prosecutor.
Well, there's definitely, I'm sorry, JB, there's definitely some strategy there. Is it someone that you trust? Is it someone that if you point out a big flaw in their case, are they going to try and fix it, or are they going to say, no, you know what, that's not justice. We're here to seek justice, not seek convictions, and dismiss the case. That's a tough decision to make. You need to do that with someone you trust.
Well, in different situations, sometimes it's, hey, you know what? Fine, I'm just not going to call that witness. Maybe not. It's like you have to like say you stole something, but maybe this witness says something real terrible, or that some part of that conversation isn't something that's not necessarily fatal to your case, but it would be exculpatory in some regard. And this, state will say, well, there's some prosecutors that will say, well, you know what? We're just not going to call that witness or use that piece of evidence. There's still a whole bunch of other stuff that, we're just we'll go on. Versus, hey, look, what's fair is fair and what's right is right. And, you should dump this case, even though it may not be the linchpin of the whole case, but it sure as hell stinks up a whole lot of stuff. And, as defense attorney, and this is my opinion, like if one piece of this puzzle's tainted, like you can't just decide, okay, I'm just gonna cut this little rotten piece of meat out, and then we'll focus on the rest of the stuff. And you gotta strategize on it, and you have to say, okay, I trust this prosecutor to do the right thing. And other times it's just like, you know what, we're just gonna go to trial and beat this person. On these nights and on these ancillary dockets, who's supposed to cover these from the as far as court staff and judges? Do we know? As far as this like night and weekend dockets and this kind of stuff.
I haven't. I'd be curious. I'm sort of reserving some judgment on it until I know the specifics, because City of Houston has that annex docket or annex courtroom that I think you can go into like any time, maybe 24/7. But if your case is like, next Thursday and it's Monday night and you want to swing by, you can just go to the information booth. This is what it was when I did traffic tickets years and years ago. Go to the information booth on the first floor, tell them you want to put it on the annex docket. They'll type into the computer system and say, okay, going down the hall. And you go in there, there's always a judge on the bench. So I think there's always a prosecutor there or down in the hall in their office. And you can get stuff done like at that time of day. If it kind of works like that, I'm okay with it. Because I got probably about 1 in 20 clients who are like, is there any way I can do this on a Saturday? And right now I have to be like, no, courts are not open on Saturdays. But it kind of makes sense, right? Well, this is our job. This is our 9 to 5. And if you need someone to come down to court, especially when jobs are kind of hard to come by right now, it'd be nice if they had the option of maybe coming on a Saturday or Sunday. Now, I don't want to go down there I can't go down there every Saturday or Sunday or every night. But if I had that option of like, let me get this specially set to go down there, then that might work. But I don't know. Go back to what you actually asked, JD. I don't know who's going to be staffing it. I do know that I heard Kim Ogg on NPR. Sure would like to have her come back on this show and talk to us about some things directly. But she was on NPR a few weeks ago saying that her office got several $1 million from the commissioners to pay overtime to try to clear the backlog, which is just kind of ironic because she created the backlog. But,
hey, Agassault with the hairbrush. Agassault with the hairbrush.
Right.
Like, give me a break, bro.
Or a choking case between a 16-year-old and her 17-year-old sister, and the 16-year-old tells the cops, "Oh yeah, I couldn't breathe. She put me in a headlock." And now we need a felony charge over that.
Yeah, give me a break. Give me a break.
I'm not kidding. This happened like 2 weeks ago, and but she got money for overtime, and she said that they're going to be using it for this kind of thing. I can only imagine it's going to be the staff, if that kind of court gets opened up, staff that kind of court with DAs.
I mean,
I don't know clerks or coordinators or CLOs who really are going to want to do that. But if it's on a rotating basis and they can pick up some extra overtime, they might all kind of be chomping at the bit to make a little bit more money.
We do have some court staff watching here, and if y'all want to chime in, a lot of times we forget to talk about the court staff. The court staffs are multitasking. The court staff, the court coordinators are there, the CLOs, the bailiffs, the clerks. They are doing all kinds of things extra, and adding a night or into a weekend docket. That's tough. I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, I don't know how I'm going to do it. Well, now I can't ever see my kids. I think my wife is watching. Hi, Kim. I'm saying hello. I don't know, like what? Now I'm not going to, I don't know. I think all of us are overworked.
Well, what do you think about it if it's like just there as an option for you? And like you pick the case that goes there. It's not put there for you. I don't know what's being proposed, to be fair. But
when
do you
have
think
we
you
ever
might
gotten
take advantage of it every now and then? Yeah, that's true.
When have we ever gotten a vote, right?
That's true.
We're the least appreciated group in the justice system.
And most work.
I wouldn't mind doing it if I could put it there. I would hate to be kicked over there, because then, hey, it happens all the time. Oh, no, there's no way I'm taking this plea out to in front of this judge, because this judge is not going to do what I know the other judge would be doing. And then if we get forced out there, number one, the judges who the head judges, and if they're ancillary judges or magistrates or referring judges, it's the same thing. It's like, God, you're going to be stuck in front of who knows what, and this plea's not going to work, and you're here for this reason, or for this issue, or for this judge to decide this bond issue or suppression issue. And how do you get out of that? I'm just concerned about that. I could see it doing for some sort of submission docket, and guess what? That particular judge, absent something crazy, just needs to accept the things that are in front of them, which I don't think any referring judge and or past judge or any judge is going to just sit there and just be like, okay, I won't put my own spin or my own flavor onto whatever's going on at the moment. There are some, but and we see that.
Well,
go for it.
I think it should be mentioned that when this was being discussed in other forums, there were a lot of complaints about a perception that the current judges right now are not showing up on time for dockets, that they're not showing up every day, that they're not wanting to work. There's another lawyer that I know that sends glitter through the mail that prefers not to work on Fridays, and like, if people would realize this is a 9 to 5 job, or 8:30 to 4:30, or 8:30 to 5:30 with an hour lunch, and show up at 8:30 Monday through Friday, we may not be in the situation that we're in right now. And that's a problem that I have is, certain judges, when a certain time hits, they are gone and out the door. I don't know what they could get done sitting in their office, but why not sit there in your office and see what can get done? And prosecutors, I think, need to be a little bit more smarter about office days to get some of their to-dos done, be able to make those RIP calls, be able to chase down videos they have a legal obligation to turn over to it. I don't know if this is like a culture that's always existed, or if it's something that's kind of come out of the work from home culture of COVID. There's some judges that are like setting me with 15 cases per trial in 1 week, and I haven't seen them set foot in a courthouse in 6 months.
Hey, Justin, you tell them you're ready, and you got Vic and I on your side.
Oh, I'm ready.
We got you.
I'm ready on all of them. My voucher is going to reflect that.
Yeah, damn right it is.
But they need, or all 15 vouchers will, but they need to recognize that, like, what's good for the goose is good for the gander, and they're the gander. If they're going to roast my goose by having me do that kind of thing, they need to come down. They need to put in the hours as well. Other people have said that.
And no one roasts Justin's goose.
I wanted to just say that. Did I?
Yeah, it's good. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. Kate Farrell says...
Two goose analogies in one sentence. That's impressive.
Hey, you will not roast our geese. Kate Farrell says, she brings up a good point. And so a lot of the waste of resources we have are the district attorneys not having discretion or always like saying, oh, this isn't my case, this is so-and-so's case, I got to send an email. And it's getting some chatter on the live wire here. It says, oh, I got to email so-and-so, or let me email the chief, or where's the discretion on that? And so if we have these weekend or night jails, we're going to have another body that's there that says, I don't know what to do on this case. Sorry, I can't. One of the things that to dovetail on that is, if you've noticed in a lot of in the felony courts, there have been like floating chiefs, right? There was a big thing so now they have like backup chiefs that can now help facilitate decision making. So if this chief isn't there, then there's another like backup individual who has authority to make some of these decisions. And I think some moves have been really good, and you're able to at least get to a prosecutor faster in some courts, but other courts, I think it's a complete waste of resources. Hey, did you hear like 7 chiefs are leaving or something? And there's going to be like, there's like 7 chief spots that are going to be open? Yeah. Heads up.
Wow. That's cool. I'm sure there's somebody who was licensed 6 months ago that'll take that spot.
So did I laugh? I'm sorry. It's true though, but there's a lot of individuals that who are still felony 2s, who really, and there's some people who are chiefs that, that I'm thinking like, hey, wait a second, this felony 2 has probably more trials or maybe more experience than you, but they're not in that position. But either way, there's going to be some big chief moves from what I understand, and I think a big chunk of district attorneys on the higher levels, on the chief statuses, have left. I don't know. Have y'all heard anything about that?
I have not heard that.
Yeah.
I just heard that like 30 seconds ago from you.
Yeah. Well, I heard about it. I heard about it yesterday.
All the DAs, if all the DAs who are somehow getting to keep their job and run for judicial office, they somehow get elected, there's going to be a huge vacuum in that office.
I agree. It's going to be a big vacuum. I agree.
Yeah, a lot of people flying the coop. I just wanted to do a bird joke like
hey, we all flock together, geese of a feather.
Birds of a feather.
Ferns of. I'm thinking we should put 2 ferns out here and then like roast some people. I think that'd be good. So what else is going on?
We're being very good about not naming names.
Well, it's all hearsay. People just tell me things. I don't know. I listen. That's what we do. So what else down the courthouse?
I've been hearing a lot about the DA's media blitz that she's been doing and getting out there and talking, deflecting or doing whatever she can to set the narrative so that there's any cause for this so-called backlog or case resets or anything from that all the way to, personal bonds. She's doing everything she can to keep it out of her office's responsibility and territory. And I've heard from district court judges that, her office is not asking for bail hearings. They're filing motions to revoke bonds on violations, and then they're never approaching the judge about it. They're just filing the motion and then not doing anything with it. And then the judge will take heat in the media from Kim Ogg for not ruling on the motion.
Well, did they talk to the clerk and put it in the queue?
Yeah, right. No, they don't even do that.
Yeah, I'm kidding.
To answer your question, they don't even do that. But that's all they have to do, right? You go to the clerk, you say, hey, because this is the judge's queue. And then the judge should say, whoa, where's the defense attorney? And the defense attorney should come and go, Judge, the rules of evidence apply if you're going to revoke, raise, or deny bail. And if the state wants to proceed with, state really wants to move the court to do this, then the defendant's entitled to a hearing on it. Which is a vague area, but what's not vague is whether or not the rules of evidence apply to raise, revoke, or deny bail. That's very clear.
The answer to that question is it does.
I agree. I don't know how you have the rules of evidence applying without having a hearing in which to apply the rules.
It's rule 101. It's Texas Rules of Evidence 101. I'm not kidding.
But what Rule 101 doesn't say is, and it has to be in a hearing.
Fair.
Right. It does. Rule 101 says bail proceeding doesn't apply in bail proceedings except to raise, revoke, or deny bail. Revoke, raise, or deny bail. But it's really it bothers me when judges take heat in the media, because I was talking to somebody today, and the way I tell clients is this whole thing, while it's not a game to you clients, this is real life to you. This whole thing is kind of like one possession of the basketball at one end of the court. Okay, in that scenario, forget the fact that in basketball, when the ball changes hands, you got a team that goes from offense to defense. You got one team on offense for this example, one team on defense. You got the basketball, the referees, and the hoop. When a team is playing basketball and they have the ball, they're on offense. They are only trying to get that ball above the rim and back down through the hoop. That's ultimately the only thing that they are trying to do. If that ball is the evidence in a criminal case and the prosecutor is the team on offense, all they are trying to do is get that ball above or beyond reasonable doubt to get a conviction if that's what they think justice is. The only thing the defense has to do in a basketball game is stop that from happening. We don't have to try to score any points. We don't have to prove anything. We don't have to touch the evidence in the case. We just have to try to stop them from getting the ball above the rim and back down through the basket. And in that whole scenario, the judge and the court staff, they're the referees. They're not supposed to care who wins or who loses the game. They're just there in case there's a disagreement or someone stops following the rules. And in fact, in a basketball game, you would never know that they're there if everybody follows the rules for the entire game. And a criminal case is kind of the same way. So to blame a judge on television for granting PR bonds that are required under the local rules, or,
Right.
or granting a bond, setting a bond amount at all, no matter how heinous the crime,
Right.
when the Texas Constitution says that they are entitled to one, is wrong. And the DA should stop
Right.
this campaign of blaming judges for what she's doing, and then she should come on reasonable doubt and tell us why she's doing it.
Or even when the DAs during the bond hearing failed to present enough evidence for the judge to act. Like y'all, they can
Yeah.
have this bond hearing or do whatever they want, but if they don't present evidence in court enough for that judge to act when they certainly can do these things, and the judge is barred by law from acting certain ways. I agree. And then the media spin comes back and say, oh well, this judge did this. Well, she was judge was following the law. In reality, it should be spun the other way. But
Yeah.
Well, recently I had a client who was on bond, and she was in an on again, off again relationship with a guy who was on bond for several cases. Well, he ended up killing her. He shot her and their baby. She died holding the baby. You guys know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And
Terrible.
I had three, very sad. She was very young, and she should have never been arrested. But anyway, I had three different judges reach out to me and say, was the shooter out of my court before the name had been released in the media? Did I put that guy out on bond? Because he was on bond for, at the time, eight cases when he allegedly shot this woman. But three different judges called me that afternoon to ask, hey, was that in my court? Because they were afraid of the media hoop storm they were going to get from the DA's office for following the law and letting people out on bond.
Hey,
Bad things are going to happen. Like it's just going to happen. I mean, we should try to avoid tragedy as much as we can, right? But no judge is responsible for someone who's out on bond for DWI getting drunk and killing 4 people in a minivan. No judge is responsible for what that guy did to your client, Vic, and to her child. Like, those are horrible, horrible things. But the judge who puts the person out on bond, who's just following the law, the judge doesn't even put the person on the bond. The judge who sets the bond or determines the bond conditions is not the one pulling the trigger or drinking and driving the car. It makes me mad. Go ahead, JB.
And with that, we're out of time, ladies and gentlemen. Vic, Justin, everybody that's watching,
JB.
Troy, Kate, we have all kinds of people that are watching, judges, coordinators, everybody out there. Thank you so much. Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association presents Reasonable Doubt. Vic, Justin, Vic, why don't you lead us out? Say goodbye to everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for having me, guys. Always a pleasure.
You the best.